In any game, movie, or any work of fiction really, having good characters is good. Having cool characters is even better. And if there's one video game series that has cool characters, it's the Yakuza series. And besides their stoic manners or fighting skills, the tattoos that cover their backs, and sometimes arms and chest, play a big role in defining them. In the Yakuza series, all of the tattoos were drawn by real-life tattoo artist Horitomo. Horitomo started his career in Japan, but later on moved to San Jose, California to work at the State of Grace tattoo shop. Over the series' 10-year history, he made 22 designs, which I'm going to delve into in this video. To help me, I have the Yakuza 10-year anniversary encyclopedia, in which almost all of Horitomo's designs are shown, along with some thoughts from the designer himself. Keep in mind that I'm still learning Japanese, so if I get any facts wrong, Sumimasen. A good place to start is with the main character Kazuma Kiryu and his tattoo of the Oryu, a grey dragon with red and yellow details. I always thought this dragon was quite impressive looking, and it's always cool when it's revealed by the classic pulling off of the upper body clothing. Because in this series, no matter how many layers of clothes you have on, one swipe is all that is needed to remove it all. The character in the ball that the dragon is holding is Sanskrit for Vairocana, one of the forms of the Buddha and the Chinese zodiac sign of the year 1968, when Kiryu was born, and that year was the year of the monkey. Even though Yumi Sawamura was never a Yakuza, she was closely connected to them since she was taken care of by Kazama and were best friends with Kiryu and Nishikiyama. Later on, after her trauma in the beginning of the first game, she got a tattoo of a night blooming Sirius, named Gekka Bijin, or Queen of the Night. Akira Nishikiyama's tattoo was that of a red carp named Higoi. The carp in Japanese mythology, and this is explained in the game, can become a dragon if it swims upstream to the Dragon Gate. Personally, I wonder why Nishiki shows a carp that can become a dragon when Kiryu skipped the middleman and just picked a dragon to start out with, but oh well. Horitomo thought that the strong red color of the koi reflected Nishiki's more lively personality, although we as players didn't really get to see that part of him until Yakuza 0. He also says that he picked the koi because of his name. Nishikiyama, Nishiki, Nishikigoi? Is that it? By the way, Kiryu, Yumi and Nishikiyama all got their tattoos from the in-game tattoo artist character Utabori II. On to the wild character who became possibly the most popular character in the series, Goro Majima. The book says that his tattoo wasn't created until the second game, and that made me realize that, yeah, Majima doesn't actually take his jacket off in the first game. His tattoo is a hanya with snakes and sakura flowers. A hanya is a female demon of Japanese lore. I had no idea it was female, just from looking at it. Horitomo got the character description of Majima and wanted to make a tattoo for him that reflected his craziness, which I think he succeeded with. Ryuji Goda, the villain of Yakuza 2, got the second dragon of the series, the Koryu. In the game, this tattoo was designed by the Osaka artist Kazebori IV, but actually drawn or imprinted or whatever by his apprentice Akina. For Goda, Horitomo was asked to make a dragon even more impressive than that of Kiryu's. He chose the color yellow because it would reflect Goda's strength, but I have to wonder if the hair also helped. Since Yakuza 2 is all about dragon versus dragon, I found this Wikipedia quote about the yellow dragon interesting. The yellow dragon does not appear in Japanese mythology. The fifth element in the Japanese elemental system is the void, so there cannot be an animal representing it. However, some consider the Oryu as a Japanese counterpart of the yellow dragon, since they share some similarities. Daigo Dojima, who took over as Tojo clan chairman after the events of Yakuza 2, got to have one of Horitomo's favorite motifs, the Fudo Myo. In Buddhism, it's known as Akala and is a guardian deity, usually depicted with two servants and not with a dragon slithering around its sword like here. But it is a powerful image, and the apparent sneer that the one slightly closed eye gives off is kind of intimidating. Rikiya Shimabukuro in Yakuza 3 was from Okinawa and had a viper tattoo, accompanied by bamboo leaves that made the Okinawa-ness of the tattoo extra apparent. In the game, his tattoo was at first unfinished, the snake's eye being empty. But in a sub-story, Utabori from the first game stepped in to finish it. Rikiya's boss, Shigeru Nakahara, the leader of the Ryudo family, was an elderly man whose strength was awakened under some immense pressure. His tattoo is that of Caesar, an Okinawan deity also seen in a couple of Godzilla movies. Along with his blue dog-like form are hibiscus flowers. The idea for this came from Sega, and Horitomo thought it would look a bit like those guardian lions commonly seen outside buildings in China, but he modified the design a bit to make it stand out, such as the upturned ears. On the other side of the moral line we find Tsuyoshi Kanda, the slap-happy, loudmouth third-generation boss of the Nishikiyama family. His tattoo is Okame and Tenyo. Okame apparently meaning plain woman, although it looks more like a geisha to me, and Tenyo being a kind of heavenly nymph. Tenyo are sometimes depicted as naked, but of course there can't be naked women in the game, so Horitomo had to rework that into what we see now. Now onto the villain of the third game, Yoshitaka Mine and his Kirin tattoo. The Kirin in Chinese mythology is more akin to a giraffe, but in Japan it's more commonly drawn as a deer. It represents good fortune, and that reflects Mine to an extent, having been a stockbroker before he became a Yakuza, and therefore is very rich. Horitomo thought that it ended up looking somewhat similar to Kiryu's dragon because of how it's heading upward. On to the fourth game now, and here one of the main characters shares a pretty similar tattoo to one from the first game, as both Taiga Saejima and Futoshi Shimano have tiger tattoos. Shimano's tiger was chosen because in mythology, tigers are on the same level of power as a dragon, which of course Kiryu has. And in Saejima's case, his name influenced the decision. Personally, I think Shimano's version has the overall better design, with the added stuff, but the angle of Saejima's tiger makes the roar that much more powerful. So a mix of these two could be the ultimate tiger tattoo. Yakuza 4 introduced Majima's lieutenant, Daisaku Minami. His tattoos contain the only mixture of Western and Japanese styles. The flowers and panther on the one side represents Japan, while the skull and the woman is decidedly American looking. This tattoo was the hardest to design, according to Horitomo. Moving on to Yakuza 5 and a trio of characters, Izawa, Katsuya and Watase. With Izawa we get another carp, this time a black magoi, which is slightly wider than Nishiki's carp, because Izawa is more beefy than Nishiki. Katsuya has an elegant white crane on his back, which he shows off when he trains naked just like in Die Hard 2. Here we see that the designs that Horitomo did go further down than the waist, which is all other times covered by pants. Apparently cranes aren't a common tattoo used, but I think it looks very classy myself. Then Watase, the feisty Omi Alliance officer with a tattoo of King Ashura, a demigod of Buddhism that wallows in earthly delights and fights anyone pretty much. Horitomo was going to do a Kongo Rikshi tattoo for Watase, but as he thought it wouldn't quite fit on his back, he switched to the Ashura. Either way, it suits Watase's fighting spirit. In the recent Yakuza 0, the three lieutenants of the Dojima family each had their own distinct tattoos. First, the very tenacious Daisaku Kuze got the great demon Enma, the judge of the underworld, sort of like Saint Peter but in hell, along with ox head and horse face, or the more classy names Gavagriva and Hayagriva, two beasts who I think sort of fill the role that Cerberus did in Greek mythology. Enma with his red skin looked positively pissed off. The pleasure-oriented Hiroki Awano has Momotaro on his back. Yes, that Momotaro, a classic Japanese mythological figure. For the game though, Horitomo drew him in more of a kabuki style as a warrior riding a red demon, although that part is obscured by Awano's pants. Definitely the most badass depiction of Momotaro that I've ever seen. For the strongest of the three, Keiji Shibusawa, Horitomo designed the third dragon of the series, this time green, even though it's called a blue dragon. He intended to make this dragon stand out from the others with more hair and maybe a snout, but in the end it looked pretty similar to the others. Nonetheless, it's a great design. There's one more character in Yakuza 0 who had a new tattoo design, and that was Wei Han Lee, better known as the Masur God Hands. Although in the game he never takes off his tank top, Horitomo did design his back like normal, and the motif is Guan Yu, a Han Dynasty Chinese general, accompanied by two dragons, who have 5 fangs per arm instead of the usual 4. This was to make it more impressive, as in ancient China it was law that only the emperor was allowed to depict dragons with 5 fangs. That's the end of what the book covers, but there is some more to talk about. First, one character in Yakuza 6 sports a brand new design, although personally I don't know what it's of. It looks like a yellow horned lion with eyes in its hips and an adorable little blue hat on his head. If anyone knows the details of this mythical beast, do tell. Then, in the previously mentioned sub-story from Yakuza 3 where Rikiya gets his tattoo completed, there's one more tattoo that's not mentioned in the book. Perhaps Horitomo didn't design it himself, I don't know. But anyway, a guy on the street accosts Rikiya, then to intimidate him shows him his tattoo of flowers and a heart with the kanji for love inside. This obviously fails to scare Rikiya, who goes to walk away, but when the guy comes after him, shows him the power of Yakuza eyebrows. Lastly, I just want to mention a few characters who didn't have tattoos. In Yakuza 4, Arai, who was one of the final bosses, didn't have a tattoo. But I can understand that since he was an undercover cop. Kido, who was also a final boss, didn't have a tattoo either, and he was a Yakuza. But maybe the reasoning was that he was too young and in a third-tier family, so why would he get one? I don't know. But Hamasaki, one of the villains of Yakuza 3, who appears in Yakuza 4 as well, when he's talking to Kiryu, bandaged from his prison break, we can see that he doesn't have a tattoo. What? He was the leader of his own family, and on the Tojo board of directors, so to speak. Why would he not have a tattoo? The same can be said of Someya in Yakuza 6. He was the interim chairman's second in command, but didn't have a tattoo. There is only one new design in Yakuza 6. Did they have budget problems or something? Anyway, that was my look into the various tattoo designs of the Yakuza series. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope we get to see some more awesome designs in the upcoming games of the series, whoever they may now be centered around.